Episode 4. I think it's episode 4. Back from Bali. I've been in Bali. I posted on my Instagram a while back. I'm sick as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. I've been super sick. So I'm drinking a whole litre of kombucha. Apparently there's good stomach bacteria. So I'm adding that in. And yeah, hoping to get better. But I'm actually super glad to be back. And I'm glad to see you as well, bro.
Yeah, vice versa, man. It's been a hot minute.
It has been. But we had the Fetty episode, first guest. We were super stoked with how that went down. And yeah, just keen to get some insight again from Fetty. Maybe if he comes back, he's always doing something. So I'm sure he'll come through again. I was in Bali, like I said. We did all the adventuring, all the ATV rides, going out to clubs, did that. But then I got sick, so I was kind of off it.
Did you get sick in Bali?
Yeah. So it was a 10-day trip, and then I think 6 days in, got some stomach thing, and then that just had me on the couch for 4 days. So yeah, was a bit off it, and still am now, to be honest. The gut's not quite there, so the training's not where it normally is, but the music definitely is, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, we did the whole adventuring thing and clubs and all that kind of stuff, which I think was what made me sick, to be honest, because I did so much going out and all that. I don't know, you can't tell in Bali.
So out of routine to what your body's kind of used to.
Yeah,
just being like a machine going for it, and then like, let's throw this in the mix. And no.
Yeah, it was so much fun though. I'm going to look back on that trip for the rest of my life, so loved it. The whole time leading up to Bali, I was like, man, I need a break. I need a break creatively. I need to take a bit of time off, as you do when you get the holidays coming up. And then the whole time I'm there, I'm like, fuck, I would really like to create right now and make some music. And maybe it was just because I didn't bring any equipment because we didn't want it to get stolen. Didn't bring a guitar. I managed to play a guy's guitar over there at a restaurant, which was really cool. But yeah, the whole time I was over there, I was like, I just want to create. But then the whole time before I was going, I was like, I need time off creating. So it's really funny and was just a cool bit of insight to just think maybe I didn't need that break, or maybe that time away and not being able to create was what I needed to get me back into it. It was a weird thing, but now that I'm back into it, this is some of the best creative times I've ever had, where I've made, I don't know, like 4 or 5 songs in the last 8 days coming back once I've gotten over the sickness. And yeah, it's been a bit mental.
Do you think that like 10 days was too long maybe? Or you, like, I guess each to their own perhaps, but for you maybe less time, but like maybe, like you said, you've come back and you've been smashing it. So
yeah, when I was sick, I wanted nothing more than to be home. But when I wasn't, the first 6 days I was like, I don't want this to end. So maybe if I didn't get sick, it would have been more just staying over there and just living it up and having fun. But yeah, as soon as I was sick, I was like, I don't want anything more than to be back into routine and to be making music again. And now that I'm back, I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere else. So it's cool, but it's just an interesting thing to think about. I don't know, for you guys out there that are hustling and going through it, it might just be where you are supposed to be and where you should keep working at, because you never know. When you take that time off, a lot of the time you're like, oh, I kind of liked where I was. And I guess that's the whole goal, right? Is to like what you're doing the whole Monday to Friday, not just what you're doing on the weekends or what you're doing on holidays, you know? So you try to create a life that you actually like doing and you're winning.
That's perfect. I can relate to that a little bit myself. Like, just training, I jumped on with the new coach, by the way, Will over at Physique Code. He's been awesome. Different coaching approach with it, right? So one thing he did is, instead of kind of being straight, you know, not balls in, but like training pretty hard from the get-go, we kind of kept training volume down and then built it up over 8 weeks, and then training really hard the last 3 weeks to have then a week of deload. And I kind of took the approach of just, you know, you're pretty much, you know, barely even training. I even took off a couple of days of those trainings just to kind of really reset. Because as much as I wanted to keep going, keep training, I was feeling that, not accepting, but I was feeling that burnout. And then that week of just completely lower load, man, I've come back in and I'm just loving it. I'm like keen to train.
Yeah, there you go.
But then still slowly building that like that load up. So just not similar. I didn't go on a holiday, but I definitely took like the time down and just restricted how much I was actually putting into it. So
yeah, sometimes you don't realize how much you need it until you actually take it.
Yeah.
And I guess with something a bit more scientific, like with training and bodybuilding, you know, maybe that's, someone would come along and say, well, yeah, we've actually tested this and this actually really works. Yep. So yeah.
Physical fatigue and mental fatigue, right?
Yeah, big difference between the two. Yeah, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back into it. I went to Jordan Peterson's, what'd you call it? A show, I guess you could call it a show. Just his talk. And I didn't really know what to expect. I thought that it was going to be, he has a book called 12 Rules for Life, and he's a massive psychologist. For you guys that don't know him, he's super well renowned. And I'm a big fan of him just through watching him on TikTok Reels and YouTube and that kind of stuff. He has a book called 12 Rules for Life. And I thought that it was going to go through that 1 through to 12. And it was going to be kind of like a self-help seminar but the first half of it just made me feel dumb as fuck, to be honest.
Oh, true.
And he talked about, probably because it was more about religion and Exodus, and which I don't know how much you're into that, but I just didn't know anything about it. And me and Kate and Nick, some friends who I went with, we were kind of just like looking at each other like, what? But at the end, he did a Q&A, and it was really cool to see. Some guy had asked a question that said something along the lines of, hey, I've got a job, but I don't feel like I'm working towards something, and it's getting to me mentally. It's really affecting me, and it's getting me down. What approach would you take to that? And what he said was really interesting. He said that you should look, whilst being realistic, you should look at what life you want to have, and then reverse engineer that from there. Not just saying, being super unrealistic and saying I want a floating house in the sky and whatever, but being realistic, what would actually make you happy and you would be satisfied with, and then doing it in reverse from there. And it makes a lot of sense, and it's very practical, but something that I'd never heard put like that before. So it was really cool to think about that and then be like, well, am I taking those steps to do that as well?
Right.
And when you actually think about it, sometimes you're not doing everything you can be, and you're just kind of going through a bit of a routine with it.
Going through the motions almost. Yeah,
just going through the motions and going through what works. So it was really cool to look back on that, and hopefully everyone else at the show, whatever you want to call it, the talk, got heaps out of it as well. But I think that'd be good thing for you guys to reflect on, is what would my ideal life be, and what are the steps that I'm taking to get there? What are they, and how am I working towards that every day? And for me, it's making X amount of TikToks. At the moment, it's 5 TikToks every day, just around the music, centered around the music. If one of them takes off, I can make a business out of the music. I've already got the infrastructure there with the merch, with the streams. I own all my music, the podcast, that kind of stuff. So that if that TikTok does give me the leverage, then that can create the life that I want, which is making a career and making money off of music. So
which is just on that path of that reverse engineering, basically.
Yeah. So I've set that up first, and kind of, like you said, done it in reverse, so that when that does happen, it kind of plays itself out, and it wasn't an accident. It was, and I don't think that it should be either. You see some people, and they're like, oh, I don't really know how I got here. But for me, I think when I get there, it's going to be like, yeah, this is what I wanted to happen.
Yeah,
well, this is what I plan to happen.
You've already kind of done the right thing, and that's talking it into existence, really. Like, you're not talking negative on, oh, this is hard, this and that. You're like, you're just confident, and you're like, you just trust the process as well.
Yeah.
You're just talking into existence on that path of that reverse engineering, which is awesome to see. Which
definitely ties into a new segment we're going to have at the end of each podcast, so stay tuned for that. We're going to add that in. I'm going to put a pin in that for a second. After the Jordan Peterson, I was just like, okay, these are my goals, and just keep doing what I've been doing. So I've just been creating, and I wanted to talk about the way that I create, and just for the purpose of helping you guys, it's just getting started. And we talked about this in episode 1 and a little bit in episode 2 as well, but just creating for the sake of creating. It doesn't have to be music, but whatever you're doing, just get your foot in the door, or just get through the door and start doing something. So for me, it's playing a loop on Splice, and I just chuck it in the DAW, which is FL Studio. I produce all my music, by the way, and I throw the sample in, and I just listen to it. If I want to sing over it, I'll sing over it. If I want to do some drums over it, I'll do that. If I want to write, I'll write. So it's just getting started, and that's really taken me to some cool places, because I'll just be stupid sometimes and just make some random sample that doesn't really make that much sense, and then I'll play around with it a bit, and just by doing that, I end up in some place where it's like, oh, I didn't think I would end up here, but I just did, because I forced myself to start. Sometimes I don't want to, but it's just doing that and getting through that first mental barrier of, oh, I don't want to start, and just doing it, even if it's going to be dog shit, just trying it anyway.
And then you go and make a track like Figures.
Yeah.
That was a good track.
That's my latest track, by the way. First beat switch I've ever done.
Yeah, and that's what I loved. I was like,
oh man,
where's this going? And he did it. I was like, oh.
That's one of the most satisfying things for me when I'm listening to another artist's music, and I've never thought to do it myself.
It's talent. I look at that when you see someone do it, they're really diversifying themselves. It isn't just the same like loop. It isn't the same chorus. Like, they're switching it up, and that's special. And you can take that like down the track when you're really getting deep into like the actual artist side of things, and like, you know, just making a book and a song. Yeah. Essentially what you're doing, you can completely flip a story. So it's just really cool to see you doing this so early. Yeah.
It was wicked. And I kind of had this thing, and this was with just starting as well. I started with that first R&B loop, and then I was like, I don't know where I want this to go. And then I kind of went back to Splice, which is where I get all my loops from. I went back to Splice and was just probably actually looking for a new song to start. But while the other song was playing, I left it going and I was on this website, and then I clicked this trap sample and it kind of just worked, and I was like, oh, true. And then I put it in the program and did it, and then was just going mental. I was going nuts.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm super stoked with how that song went out. It's Understand/Figures, because it's kind of two different songs as far as I'm concerned, but it's put into one. And yeah, super stoked with how that turned out. But yeah, thanks for plugging that, bro.
Yeah.
I've got another trip coming up, and I am adjusting the way that I'm approaching this trip. And
Local or?
No, I'm going to Esperance. So for you guys that don't know, we're in Perth, and Esperance is probably, I think it's 8 hours or something. Me and my sister.
It's a good drive, yeah.
It's 7 or 8 hours, so it's a big day driving. And yeah, we're going to go down there. But this time I've got to bring something that I can create with. I've got to bring a guitar, or I've got to bring a laptop just to make some beats or play some music, because it'd be interesting to see. Maybe it's actually good to have that tension when I was on holiday of like, oh, I can't create. Yeah. So when I get home, I'm just like, I need to go. Yeah. So this time I'm going to try and bring a guitar and see if I can scratch that itch while I'm down there. So
do you think, like, say taking a laptop, you can truly make the beat, right? But do you think taking that guitar could, like, kind of be like you're itching it, but you're not like completely getting rid of it, so then you come back and you still like just go ham, like there's that extra motivation there.
Yeah,
you could like have an idea in your head when you're in Bali, like, but you can't strum it out on a guitar, right? Then you could just strum it out on a guitar, really fall in love with it, bring it back home, and then when the whole, you know, production's in front of you, then it could be crazy. I guess it's trial and error, but
being a bit more organized with it, I guess. Because what I do is I just record a voice memo on my guitar. That's how I do it. Voice memo on my guitar. Or on my phone with my guitar, and then when I come back, put it in the program or redo it better quality. So that was it, really. That was sick. Just getting back into this. We haven't got a guest. We were supposed to have a guest on. We're not going to say who it was. So that's why we're just chopping it up now and just kind of going with the flow. We wanted to do this segment where at the end of each episode we check in with where our goals are at short term and voice them to you guys, and hope that you guys will do the same. So at the end of the podcast, you could even write down what your goals are. There's a few rules to it though. Rules are, it has to be maximum 1 year time span to reach the goal.
Okay.
It has to be concrete. So it has to be, I want to reach, it has to have some kind of, I guess, numerical value around it, but it is tricky with some goals.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But for me, I'll go first. 500k streams and 50k followers on either Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube.
And that's by the end of the year?
By my next Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah, okay, right.
So when I did this Spotify Wrapped, I was like, right, I want it by the next time.
Yeah. What'd you get this time?
25k streams.
Okay.
And I think I'm on 1,500 followers.
Yeah, and so you just kind of trying to leverage and double that?
A lot more than double. Yeah. I think it's times 20.
Why?
That's what TikTok does, bro.
Yeah. Okay, no, I like it though.
And
again, you're talking that into existence, which is massive.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we're at this pinnacle point right now where like, it's like the slingshot is pulling back. I feel it is anyway. The slingshot is pulling back. And the more it pulls back, the more tension there is. Obviously, the more further you pull it back, the more it's going to go.
Yeah,
so like,
that is a sick way to think of it.
What's going to happen is it's going to get to November. It hasn't popped. The sampler comes around. Boom.
Yeah.
It's going to go crazy, man.
That's mine. If you guys have something like, we just encourage you just to do it as well. Jay.
And I think it's having that goal too. And like, for me, I think where I first started this podcast was heavy around like the coaching aspect, but you know, really diving deeper into this management role with Supplement Mart, I'm enjoying it. I'm a numbers person, and obviously, you know, my store each week that I'm at, you know, hits a certain threshold income. And recently we've been more 15 grand per week average. So with that, like obviously it's up to me, the earnest for me to go do the network, go, you know, build the community for this like little shop, which I really believe I'm doing. I'm getting a good group of clients and customers that come through. So like I guess my goal would be to get that shop up to 25 grand per year. Maybe not a lot, but like for a brand new shop, like it's a reasonable goal for me, I guess, because I truly don't, you know, really know. I've only been doing management for a year, and I think I've found the purpose of it now, and just grow the shop, I guess. So just motivated in that until the next sort of the next year comes around. Then we can talk about what the next year's goal would be, which I do have in mind. But for now, that 1 year, like that, it'd be get that shop up to 25 grand.
15 grand to 25 grand by next
per
year.
week, yeah.
Dope.
So what would that be? That's like an extra 120 grand a year nearly for the shop. which would be
15 grand to 20. Wait, didn't you say it was 15 grand
so an
to
extra
25
extra
grand?
10 grand a week.
Yes. Yeah.
So then 12 months.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
would be good.
That's a lot of protein.
Yeah, it's a lot of protein, but but man, protein's so expensive nowadays. Like, shout out to those that are struggling with their protein because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But given that, like, there's a huge demand for it, and you know, it's not hard to treat a person good, and then they'll want to come back and see you for their protein. You know what I mean? Not to perch from other shops, but I just really want to build a community with my shop here because Baldivis, where I'm at, like, that whole little town's a community. It's cool to see.
I see that at the gym. I'm a coach at F45 and at DBL as well. Don't Be Lazy Gym by Coach Mac. A little shout out. I coach at both of those places, and it's like if you give people a good service and just be decent, then they'll come back most of the time. If they can tell that you know your shit and you're being decent about it, they're gonna come back, and that's a really cool thing to know.
Yeah, even beyond that, like I was just down in Busselton training up a young fella, 17, and I think I think the biggest thing that I was like for him to drive home was like it's more than just sales. Like, they're people that come in, you want them to come back and see you. Just be a good person, treat them like they're becoming a new friend, because ultimately, at least that's the way I've been approaching my customers lately, is I've just been a friend to them. Makes my day better. I get more people around me. There's more opportunities through that.
Feels less like work for you.
Yeah, dude, I don't wake up. It does not feel like work, which is such a blessing, which is why I think my motivation from like wanting to coach, you know, finding this job and like diving into it more, and like it's just been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and that's for, like, not even just within a shop reason, the gym, like in general, like everyone that approaches you, I think if you treat them like a friend, like it just welcomes them more to you, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense. Hey, this one's kind of short and sharp, but if you take away anything from this, that bit that we talked about with Jordan Peterson, reverse engineer the kind of life you want to have, and then take the steps to get there. And then that final segment, we're going to keep coming back to that. Yeah. Even just for ourselves, it's going to be cool to see if I've got there, looking back on the podcast, and in a year's time, if I'm there, sick. If I'm not, let's keep working.
I think even throwing in those short-term goals, because we're going to have the same 1 year max, surely.
Yeah. So keep it, if you're going to do your own one, keep it at 1 year absolute max. And yeah, maybe even some shorter-term goals so that you can keep revising on them and keep kicking goals.
Smash them. Love it.
That's it. We love you. See you in episode 5. We're going to have a guest. Peace.